Hello, friends, and welcome to the Optimized Advisor Podcast, where we focus on optimizing the well-being and best practices of insurance and financial professionals today. On this show, our objective is to help you optimize your life, optimize your profession, and learn from other optimized advisors. I'm your host, Scott Heinela. We hope you enjoy the show. Annie Dietrich with AC Social Designs. Welcome. Thank you for coming in today.
Well, thank you for having me.
When was the last time you were in? Do we know? Did we talk about that?
I want to say
so for those listeners, they can go back and tune into that and then listen to this one as well.
Which they should.
Right.
I think it was in spring.
Okay.
Of last.
Okay, yeah. So a lot has changed.
Always.
What is new with AC Social Designs? Anything, or just continuing to do much of the same?
Adapting a little bit, kind of changed a little bit of our processes and stuff like that with our clients. But I mean, just trucking along, I guess.
And we'll get to this. Has there been things changing in the social media world?
Yes.
Okay. Don't release anything yet. Okay.
Yeah.
But we will cover that.
Yeah.
You promise?
I promise.
Okay, good.
I will say that since we met last, AC Social has grown by 50,000 followers.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, we had
So that's progress.
That's huge progress.
That's huge. Yeah.
It feels like I have to keep up with it.
We'll talk a little bit about the video content and video creativity around that and how to be somewhat original or truly original if you can achieve that.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, it's an interesting conversation of, you know, is there truly new content, or in other words, am I just recreating what I've already seen?
I think it's a little bit of both. So a lot of social media is based off trends, and for a while, and you also have two very popular platforms like TikTok and Instagram that constantly are competing for you to be on their platform. So at one point, it's all about doing what everybody else is doing, and then now it's completely converted to original content. So before, we used to have all these like videos that were coming out where you were lip syncing or saying something that was related to your business, and everybody was doing it.
Right.
And when you were scrolling, you would see the same thing over and over again.
Right.
And that was what made the algorithm trend. It doesn't do that anymore. Instagram kind of pulled the plug on that. And those are two very different platforms also. But, you know, you've got everybody competing for their space on social, but then you've also got the platforms competing for your presence.
So, I'll speak to exactly that. Today is going to be all about optimization strategies focused on the financial advisors so that they could hopefully achieve their, let's call it, social media success.
Correct.
And to disclaim that a little bit, I think everybody needs to be real and honest with what that definition is for them, because to me, it's a very individual thing. There's certain advisors who are going to be more interested, definitely more motivated to have that presence, to have that brand, to be out there and to expose themselves. But there are requirements. There are strategies, best practices that every advisor who is adopting a presence online, and I would say not just social media, your website, your newsletter, however you engage in the virtual world, this encompasses all of that, some of these practices. So today we're going to break down a few of kind of the core practices and strategies that they could deploy.
Yeah. And that way that makes it easy for them and want to do it.
Perfect. Okay, good. Yeah. We're gonna in a very, very good way, we're gonna simplify what for me is seemingly not so simple. We're gonna do our best.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, content. This is the genesis of all of this is, what content am I creating? How am I creating this content? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How should it be written? Right. Should it be written, or should it be, video? And how do I start to break that down? To me, it comes down to really four things, and maybe there's more, but the content that I should be releasing should be timely. It should be relevant, current.
Correct.
It should be captivating.
Yep.
That's the other part. Let's break this down for a moment. As you're saying, you mentioned this briefly. There's so much competition fighting for space.
Right.
It's never been easier to be on social media or online. That's the good thing.
Right.
The challenging part is it's so competitive.
Very competitive. Yeah. And there's so much out there.
So,
but I think from a financial advisor point, there is such a space for them right now. I think that there's definitely a place for them to play.
And the other two, and then we can break these down, is to be relatable and honest.
Correct.
Right? Be genuine, be who you are. My advice is yes, could you create whatever image that you want or persona? To me, that's a mistake. I think we've proven that.
Right.
Especially as an advisor, your role is to connect with the audience, to connect with your customers, and you need to be genuine of who you are. And people see through that, I think.
Well, and I think a lot of the business is referral based. And so you want, when somebody says, oh, I work with Scott Heinela, to go to your account and see who you are. A lot of people do that, you know? And I think that that's really important, that you showcase that you are, who you are. You also are a family man, a husband, and people engage with that. And then for them, it's seen that you're truly human.
Right.
And you're a person that they might connect with and want to do business with you or network with you or be part of what you're doing.
Yeah. And certainly, I think that's easier if I'm just a 1 or 2 person team at this point in my practice. It becomes probably harder and harder as I'm more of a presence within my enterprise, within my organization. In other words, if I've got now an advisory enterprise of 20, 30, 50, it becomes probably even more important that you are intentional about being personal and being relatable and sharing vulnerabilities, you know?
Well, people like to see that. Like, that's what is interesting to them, is the difference. Like, yeah, you're great at giving me my financial advice, but what else do you do? You know, oh, wow, I had no idea Scott was really into boating.
Right.
You know, that might pique somebody else's interest and be like, oh, I share that same, you know? So that might be something. If you're constantly just giving like quotes and information and sharing articles, you're not really benefiting who you are.
Yeah. Okay, so content. Let's text. Typewritten content.
Right.
What should I be concerned with there?
So, a lot of the way content is written nowadays is, let's look at it from like a timely situation as far as like optimizing your time. So I would either at the end of the week or the beginning of the week figure out what you're going to post for either that week if you're not planning out a month ahead. I do have to say that things tend to change quickly on social, so it's okay to regroup every week, which is typical for most people. And I think what you need to do is you need to have some type of content that is motivational, inspirational, educational, and then promotes who you are. And in all of those, you can pick and play with, what am I going to keep business oriented and what am I going to share who I am through? And a lot of that content can be a hard image, but it needs to be something that's genuinely interesting, right? Like stops the person during the scroll.
That's the captivating part.
Right. And when you write in your text, you don't want to give like this big, long, lengthy, like whole conversation or information, or you're copy and pasting this big, long Bible process.
Right.
You want it to be catchy. So you want it to be something that's like, we call them like keywords, and something that gains their interest to stop to read, because captions are really not read anymore, especially people watching video content. Half the time they have the volume off and they're just looking at what's happening. It has to be something that intrigues them to turn the volume on or read the captions.
Right.
So it's the minute you lose somebody's interest, which their spans 3 seconds, they're gone. They're no longer interested in your post. A lot of hard posts aren't getting as much traction. It's all video related now. So even if you did a 3 to 7 second video of like a background picture and you have text come up like a quote of some sort, that will catch somebody's eye versus just a hard post.
So we still would advise, you were mentioning that people aren't doing as much with captioning, but they probably, because the video is on mute, should we still have caption as a subtitle, right?
Yeah. Yes.
the same
so
thing.
the caption down below, and you need to have some type of
You should still have it.
Yes.
Right,
But it
okay.
doesn't need to be like lengthy
I got
at
it.
any point.
Yes,
Give it a
yes.
good punchline, and from there, give them a call to action. Like, what do they do with this? Like, what is the information you're putting out there? So, for instance, if we do like a Monday motivation and it's you working out, you know, maybe our reaction is comment below if you did this workout and
Right.
give us your best time. So then we create a conversation in the story. Or you can do a call to action that directs them to learn more about something that you're talking about, an event maybe. And then that call to action will be like a link in bio, or here's where to register or learn more.
Right.
So you need in everything you put on social, whether it's in a post, in a story, in a highlight, it needs to have some type of a call to action, which is what do we do next with it? So how do we capture them?
What would be an example?
So a good example would be, for instance, for like Optimize Advisor, if we launch a new episode. So new episode, you know, Scott sat down with Annie. They talked about optimizing your social media. Go listen now, link in bio.
Got it.
And so
okay.
then they would go to the link to download and listen to the episode. You always want to cross promote that through your stories as well, because Instagram is not hyperlinked. However, LinkedIn is, Facebook is. And so you can use a hyperlink in stories on Instagram, which is usually a lot of space that people spend a lot of time scrolling.
Right. Okay. Let me give two more examples. One would be, so I have a website.
Yep.
My website should have a blog and or a resource library. So I'm authoring content
Yes.
on financial insurance related articles, or just maybe it's beyond wealth articles.
Right.
Articles that are near and dear to our core values and our culture that should directly be in alignment with that is my advice. So, okay, so I write an article. I could post on social media that tags maybe some catchy phrases, a very, very abbreviated verbiage, or a video that captures the interest, and link to article.
Yep.
That goes back to our website. Now
Yes.
I'm creating this ecosystem, this circular environment. Let me give some examples. So taxes, inflation, tax loss harvesting.
Right.
You know, what I think a lot of advisors tend to do is just this market update and market commentary. Well, how many advisors are doing that?
Everybody.
Everybody. So come up with current, timely, relatable articles that you can, and I would say it's okay to reference a very reputable resource of a white paper or a more in-depth
Absolutely.
article that said, you know, newspaper or resource has provided, and you can share that and put that on your website, right? As long
Yep.
as you're, and then referring that back to, or vice versa, the social media platform.
Right. And the biggest thing is that whenever you're driving somebody somewhere in what we call like your Omni Presence, which is your website, your social media, your maybe email campaign, newsletter, like everything that you have put out into the internet world, that is the most important thing that you can do, is get people to know where you are. A lot of people on their profiles have link trees, and on those link trees, it gives them a place to go. And when they're there, it's pretty precise. Upcoming events, new articles here, and you can play with it, which is really cool.
Okay.
When you send them somewhere and all of a sudden they open it and there's like 15 options, they're going to lose interest in going to find that article. So
Right.
make sure whenever you're calling to a link to something specific that you're talking about, that it's accessible and that is exactly the link you're talking about.
Okay, and very, very easy for them to find.
Yes, yes. And that's why using it in stories, especially on Facebook and Instagram and even on LinkedIn, is really important, because a lot of people are kind of poking through there. So let's just say here's another prime example. Let's just say your most current newsletter went out on Wednesday, and you don't have certain followers aren't signed up for it or even knew about it. You can highlight it in your stories, put the link to register to receive the newsletter, so you can build your email list. So those are really important. Like, you can use a call to action in a lot of different ways, and that's considered content, and that's kind of like daily content.
Right.
So if you post 3 times a week And whether that's a hard post or video content, you should always be active in your stories on a daily basis, whether that's sharing relatable information or, I mean, it sounds silly, but people are nosy. And so, for instance, you flew yesterday, so it would have been cool if you captured a picture of the plane looking out and like, Orange County, here I come. I know it sounds corny, but
it's just remembering.
Yeah, totally.
That's the hard part.
You're not like me, where the other day, my girlfriend sent me this meme of a lady like leaning over everybody's food, videoing it. And she's like, who does this remind you of? And I was like, me.
Right, exactly.
Nobody touch your food.
Right. Hold on.
Yeah. But it is true to think of a couple little things because people like that. Like that does show that, that kind of personable touch to it. Or maybe you sat down and you had a really good beer with a good friend, take a picture of the 2 beers next to them, just tag the place you're at. Geotagging is really cool because it kind of pulls in people from different areas to see you, especially if you're public, and you should be. And so that's another way to kind of like through your stories, create and get in front of other people.
Okay. Interesting.
So.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about graphics.
Okay.
So images, should there be some method to my madness as it relates to the graphics and the imagery that I do post, or doesn't really matter?
So stock images
I'm just thinking like uniformity and again, going along like a brand and having a brand and a presence. Should they all somewhat within guardrails emulate?
I think that's a personal thing. As far as the algorithm goes or the reach, that definitely doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't have to look beautiful. It used to. 2016, that was really important. And kind of one of the reasons why I created my business, because I love the design look of a grid. But unfortunately,
because some advisors will, like every post
right
looks the same.
And that gets boring, right?
Right.
And there are people that I follow that they kind of put out the same information over and over again. And I'm like, it's the same guy dancing. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing over and over again. And it does become boring.
Right.
I think when you're using people in pictures is important. So that captivates. So like having a picture of you, whether it's sitting on your boat, golfing, like things like that, even though that picture might not relate 100% to your article, it catches them to stop and be like, oh, wait. And if you can articulate it back to the article, great. Or the motivational quote you're going to give.
But I think the key point you made there is that it doesn't always have to directly relate to the article. The other thing is, I would say, is what was once captivating doesn't mean it's always captivating. Correct.
And remember, again, social's such a trend that things fade in, fade out all the time. Like for you, whenever we do like a fitness post, like a Monday motivational, we do a fitness post and there's a picture of you in it, it does a lot better than a picture of the weights on the floor. Mm-hmm. Okay. If we post a video of you, it does
Makes
even
no
better.
Sense to me.
Right.
That shouldn't be the case, but okay.
But it is, but having someone in it, or like a picture of you and your wife, like that always gets a little bit more content because that's interesting to people.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, quality. Let's move on to quality.
So don't just throw something on there. Like definitely you want to have good quality content and media, your images.
So the perfect example comes to mind is the person in the car or walking and they're holding the camera and they're talking. Now, there's a fine line there. Sometimes it's done well.
Right.
Now, I don't know what they're doing. Maybe there's a trick or a trade that you can share with the audience. Are they actually physically holding? Is someone else holding? Are they using one of the sticks? I don't know. But sometimes it looks terrible,
right,
in fairness. And sometimes it's, wow, they did a very nice job of self-recording themselves.
Realtors do a lot of that, holding the phone and walking around, and it makes me dizzy. But that's because I'm a little bit more of a perfectionist when it comes to the video.
I just came across one the other day. A guy was hiking outside, and he had a ruckpack on, and you could clearly tell he was recording it. But I listened to the whole thing. It captivated me enough. It was interesting, and it was veteran related and around
all the things
9/11
you like.
And all. Yeah, exactly. So, but it was an example of how to get away with doing that conversely, I've seen many times where it's like, this is not, the quality of this was not delivered properly.
Right. So 2 things. It could have been a live. I don't know if he was going live or not, and that sits on your feed. And a lot of people do that in stories, but for a hard post, I would definitely kind of stay away from that, from it sitting on your grid. Because when somebody actually comes across your profile and does a profile visit on any platform, they're going to look at what you have featured on your grid first. They'll probably peek at your stories and they might look at some of your highlights. But for them to really truly hit that follow button or want to come back for more type of thing, you definitely want to have something that captivates them, and you don't want it to look too messy, you know?
Right. Okay. So quality.
Yeah.
What are some things I need to do to know that I'm recording quality video, quality content?
So you could definitely put your phone on a holder of some sort and sit in front of it and have a conversation with your community. And I would keep it within the parameters of that platform. That's an easy Google search to know, like, if I'm going to post on LinkedIn, what size does my, video need to be? But I would keep it short and sweet. I mean, I don't know how long that guy spoke for, like I said, if you found him in stories or on a hard post, but usually after a minute, it's like too much.
Right.
But a lot of those go into stories. So like whenever I give tips or educate, I do it in my stories. I don't ever do lengthy, long, hard posts. And using a filter of some sort, it's a good benefit. It's a feature, and whenever you use a feature in an app, it always just helps with the algorithm.
Okay, so what are some best practices as it relates to stories? Can I separate them, organize them?
There's no rhyme or reason in them.
Okay, there isn't.
It's like behind the scenes of your day, right? I mean, it literally is. Like the people who are the most successful in stories and highlights on even LinkedIn is getting to be a little bit more casual. Before, LinkedIn used to be like articles and look here and check out my friend here and network here and go see this event here. And lately,
very business oriented.
Very business. And it still is, because it is primarily a business networking platform. But you do see from time to time people on there sharing like their favorite beverage or, anything along those lines.
Right.
But relatable to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, like I keep my platform pretty business oriented, but I do sneak a lot of my personal into my stories. And that's where I sell who I am.
Okay.
That's where people kind of get a light into, oh, wow, so she knows a lot about social, but like, what does she really do? And I always joke that I just drink coffee and scroll all day.
Right. Yeah. That's great.
Because in my stories, I kind of highlight that.
Right.
It's like
So what would an advisor do?
So it possibly, like, if I'm going to use you as a prime example. So like in the morning, you go to the gym, you work out, you might capture like your workout you did on the whiteboard or your set or on the treadmill. And then from there, possibly you might, get in the car and go somewhere, and maybe that day you go meet a friend for lunch, like I talked about before, and you picture the barbecue that you decided to get that day, and then you just tag where you are. And then you might be in a business meeting, and you could kind of do like a video of everybody in the business meeting, and it's like, here, reaching our goals or something like that. It's just kind of a snapshot into your day. Maybe go out on date night with your wife and you guys take a cool picture, and that gets put up on your stories.
Should I worry too much about what the quality? Can I make mistakes with stories?
Totally.
You can.
Yeah.
Oh.
And actually try misspelling words. People correct you all the time, but just so you know, it boosts your engagement because people are commenting.
Interesting. Okay, that's a cheat code.
It's
but
a little
maybe
cheat
not the
code.
one you
yeah,
want to
no. But you also want to include like any of your successes. So we always talk about like things that you've done really well, or like people might not know that you're a board member somewhere. You know what I mean? So maybe highlight your day doing something like that, and your children, because that is who you are, and highlighting like the success of them or something that they've done or a proud dad moment, that shows that you're human.
Okay, those are all good examples. Moving on, cadence. So this would be the timing of things, when I post things, how many times I post things, and then you've got the various platforms.
Right.
LinkedIn is different than Facebook and Instagram, and if I want to be on Twitter and these different And you, if I'm, I guess more and more maybe posting videos on TikTok and things like that as well.
Yeah, it honestly
depends on your audience.
On your audience. So to break it down really quickly, Facebook's definitely like your family and friends. It's also a really cool modern library. So you can always, it's easy to highlight things and put things on there, but it is an older generation. Instagram used to be this like photo share.
Older would be more boomers.
Boomers, yes. Like even older than you and I too.
Right. Well, that would be boomers.
No, I know, but I have a lot of friends who still are like, I'm not
Facebook.
going to the Instagram side. I don't even know what to do.
That's true. It's probably Gen X.
Yeah.
And of course boomers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then as far as Instagram goes, Instagram used to be this photo sharing app, but it's really converted since the pandemic into a business marketing platform. And I truly believe the amount of money and time that Meta is putting into this platform, that if you are a creator, a business owner, somebody who's selling a product or a business, a financial advisor who is an expert in what they do, if you are not on Instagram, you are missing out, because now's the time to get on. It's a free way to advertise. It's the amount of features that they're putting together weekly that they're announcing that can benefit you is like it's the train to be on.
Right. Okay.
And LinkedIn, I think, is a very important platform for financial advisors, but not necessarily are you going to get a lot of new business from it. But it's a great place for you to network and piggyback off of each other and learn new best practices or even find educational information.
Great peer network.
And it's a good presence. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Can we talk a little bit about using social media as what are some best practices for tying that into my website, to tying that to the newsletter? Because all advisors should have a website. We don't need to, that's a whole nother day, but your website absolutely should be clean. It should be simple. It should emulate your brand, who you are as either a person, an advisor, as an enterprise.
Right.
It definitely should be easy to navigate. There should be some tools on the website. It definitely should not look like every other advisor down the street.
Right.
Create your, which we can talk about. This is an opportunity for you to showcase your niche, your brand, your personalization. The newsletter should also emulate that.
Right.
But it would be article content driven, maybe some other personal things that you can share with the newsletter. So we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so actually your newsletter is kind of like your primary place, because you should have a real good email campaign. And so that's a lot of that comes from your website and your social media. Okay. So how do people know you have a newsletter? They can't, other than visiting your website, you might have like a pop-up box that says, join our newsletter monthly, weekly, however you do it. But on social media, you can talk about it all the time and you can relate it to that. So the email blast or newsletter is your campaign place. And in it, each time you're talking about something, three topics are really, having a topic and breaking it down 3 ways is really important in newsletters. The way that you want to do it is you want to give them information right off the bat, something that captures them, intrigues them, and then possibly the call to action is to go to the website to learn more. The other piece of it might be a promotion of some sort that you have going on from a financial advisor, whether it's a free training or a webinar or anything along those lines. Then you would also have a call to action in there to go to register for their spot for that. And then the last one would be to make sure they're following you on social media. Mm-hmm. So say where you are, what platforms you're on, and what is it that you're putting out there. So is it to learn more tips and guidance? Is it to become more of an expert? That type of thing. So make sure that you have a call to action in 3 different ways on that.
I would say your newsletter should also always include something that showcases you, your team, your organization on a personal level.
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Yeah, and if you can come up with like a really cool niche, like a sign off or, something that is, or the way you always welcome them to the newsletter, that's always really kind of cool. Like there's a couple people different that do different sign offs, or they have like a weekly newsletter and they do like the fact of the week or the product of the week or the quote of the week.
Right.
And so they know that they're always getting that. And so I think that's always, to capture it. And there is, again, in your hyperlinks on your social media, make sure you have a place that they can sign up for that newsletter so that they know that they can do that and receive that information. And highlight your newsletter when it drops in your stories or a hard post, if you want, in your social media.
Right.
And that way people know, because those that aren't signed up for it, will go over and sign up for it to receive it. And so tease what's in it.
Yeah.
And keep it like something like, you can't get this here. You have to go here to get it.
Right.
And that's important.
Okay. All right. Okay. Events.
Yes.
What are some things that we could be doing? So whether it's virtual event, I mean, obviously through COVID and all this, advisors have been quickly adapted. Yeah. To doing virtual webinars with clients, virtual experiences. There's many great ideas of virtual events that we could put together for our customers and our clients, but that I should also be doing in-person events.
Right.
I think it's easier to digitize a virtual event because the creation of that event is purely virtual. So record that, have somebody take snippets from that, basically cut it, share it, promote that, use that to leverage your events that you are doing on social media, on your website, on all the platforms that you have. I think a lot maybe forget about doing a similar process if I'm doing an in-person event.
Right.
So being thoughtful and intentional about maximizing all events that I'm hosting.
Yeah. And I think templating your events is really important. So you can use an app like Canva to create a cool template for your events so that it's cohesive with your brand.
So what is Canva for our listeners?
It's kind of like a graphic design, but it's for dummies, really. I mean, it's brilliant and it's specified for social media.
Beginners.
Okay.
The less experienced.
I could not do my job without Canva. It's definitely an amazing
So
platform.
Canva allows you to go on and create thumbnails. It allows you to create logos.
You can search templates, just say you're going to do a webinar. Type in webinar. It pretty much lays it out for you. You can pick your branding colors. You can put your picture on it. You can add your logo. And it's really easy. You can do it straight from your phone if you're traveling. It's just brilliant. And it will put everything synced up to your social.
Okay.
So it's a very easy platform to use, especially if you're not a graphic designer.
Right.
It's just an easy way to make yourself look professional. So when we talked about that quality content, this would be a quality post. But if you have these templates already made and you're doing these events often, it's it'll, to your community of followers, they'll see it come up and they'll be like, oh, Scott's having another event.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're kind of creating this mind game of
that's the branding.
Right.
Yeah,
right behind
absolutely.
it. And so, and if you're doing quotes, do the same thing. If you're going to go for it, you're going to brand yourself. I recommend using a template and change it up. Don't do the same thing for more than, let's just say a month or so. Change out your colors a little bit differently, or maybe you take your image of you off and then you put something else different on there. You know what I mean? Do make it different, but also have it be cohesive to your brand.
Got it.
And I think that the best part about advertising your events is, the timing of it's really important on social media. So you can actually create events in your social media platforms on Instagram and Facebook. I don't know about LinkedIn, but that set up reminders for people. So you announce an event and it says, click this button for you to be reminded about the event. And so with that being said, in those platforms will also track your event. So you'll see how many people actually looked at that post, or they saved it because they're going to sign up for the event, or they set up the reminder. And that's good for your insights because that'll also tell you what time you should do it. So with that being said, if you have an event on the 15th, I'd start promoting it on the 1st. And then every 3 days up until the week of the event, so 5 to 7 days out, you should promote it every single day.
Right.
And in a way that you get a sense of urgency, only 3 spots left. Like
Right,
if you
right.
have 3 spots left, say so, you
Right,
know?
right.
And then now we're down to 1 spot left. Who wants it? You know,
Right.
create that sense of urgency.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good advice.
And be creative with your events. If you're doing online events, Facebook's got a great platform to have an online event. Instagram Lives are okay. Personally, I've never really enjoyed them. LinkedIn also has a good feature for it. But I know some of the events are usually on a Zoom or what have you if they're virtual. But Facebook has a really good platform that you can be very creative on. So have something that's engaging with everybody. But I'm a fan for in-person events.
Right. Yeah, me too. But my point too would be if you could take that in-person event and put it on video.
Yeah.
Whether it's a live release or
Right.
it's recorded, and then you can professionally produce it and edit it and make it available post event. Even if you just take little video clips to then post on social media, well, that'll only further promote future events that you do in person. So that's my point of maybe you don't, if you have an in-person event, whatever that is,
Right.
take advantage of that to then create and leverage that content. Give yourself the opportunity to create significant amount of content that
Right.
you can then do something with.
Everything's content. Like anything you do, everything you do can become content.
Right.
That's
And,
it.
and an in-person event should not begin and end with only the people in the audience anymore.
Totally.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays because
Right.
and something that's going to start to becoming more and more in social is going to be these YouTube shorts. That'd be a great place to capture your event because unlike some of the platforms, a lot of highlights and things go away, but on YouTube it stays.
Okay, let's talk about engagement. We're running out of time here.
Okay.
So engagement to me means engaging myself in the platforms to begin with.
Yep.
But
good.
then also commenting, interacting. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so people often mistake impressions and engagement. So impressions are actually your reach, like who are you being seen by and how often are you being seen, where your engagement works 2 ways. One, what you put out there can be engaged. So that's like your comments in a post or even a share or a save on a post. And in your stories and your highlights, it's your reactions and then your direct messages. And direct messages are becoming more and more part of engagement. Before they were just kind of considered a text process.
Right.
But that's becoming more part of that. Like there's a lot of sell by chat now. So direct messages is very heavy hitter for engagement. But on the other end of it, which I think is almost more important than obviously you should engage and create your story and comments with your posts, but engaging on the other end. So we talked about this in our last episode when I said don't post and ghost, which is very, very true. You still have to engage on the other end. So
Right.
you commenting on, a person that you met at a webinar and saying it was so nice to meet you, love all the information, that's engaging on an outbound end. And you should do that 20 minutes a day. And you can do that for 20 minutes,
Right.
like grab your phone, take a look at it, go on the other end. The best way, if you're trying to stick to your niche, I would hashtag like financial advisors. I would hashtag inflation right now. And I would follow those or any of the trends, tax harvesting, things like that.
How do I find out what's trending in hashtag world?
So in Instagram and Facebook, you can search hashtags.
You can, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it auto-populates what the amount of trend it is.
Okay, so I go on to Facebook or Instagram and I have the word.
And it'll tell you next to it, 254,000 posts are related to this word.
Okay, so that's a good barometer of
Right.
what's gaining momentum or what's trending.
And even if it has 100, it's not a bad hashtag. It's just, and creative ones are important too because it helps you with more reach. But finding them, if you search the hashtag and you go and you follow that hashtag, then when you do your search, so in Instagram and Facebook, there's a thing called recommendations, and recommendations pop up on your screen. And those are kind of where we find ourselves going down the rabbit hole. And so with that being said, that's where you'll start to see things that are related to you, whether you searched it on Google, whether you searched it on a different platform, all of these forms algorithm are going to push that data to you. And let's just say you engage with the guy hiking and you commented, cool post, learned a lot, loved the information, more than likely you're going to get some more backpackers on your feed.
Right. Okay.
So
can I hashtag too much?
no.
So those that put in like 20 hashtags in their post
is excessive.
Right.
So,
but there's no, from an algorithm or a platform standpoint, there's no, I'm not being penalized for how many hashtags I have. It's just, to me, it's annoying.
It's the biggest argument in social media is how do hashtags help us? Like, huge. And 2 weeks ago, Adam Mazzari from
they help us in a huge way, or it's a huge debate.
Like, is it worth it?
Right.
Like,
that's the debate.
That is the debate.
Okay.
And so I've debated with other social media people that I disagree that they're worthless, because people say they're worthless, but I disagree. I feel like I grew a ton using hashtags. I put together a hashtag strategy that I was taught through other social media managers that had tried it, and it helped me grow significantly.
Okay.
So I don't think they're worthless. And Adam Mazzari himself 2 weeks ago said, he's the CEO of Instagram, he said, use hashtags because it's how you get the reach, how people can find you. You don't have to use 20, use 5 or 8, but make them relatable to your post.
Right.
So if you're always posting the same 8, no matter what you're putting out there in your content, it's probably not going to help you.
Got it.
But if you're posting about fitness, I would hashtag fitness. But if your next post is about an article you just read and you want to share with everybody on inflation, don't hashtag fitness.
Right. Right. Got it. Okay.
So I would pick your top 8 that you would use to interchange.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about tagging people?
I think tagging people's
where do you tag? Does it matter? And is there an appropriate strategy for that?
So I think tagging people is important. So for instance, if you and I, when we put content out, I will tag you because you were involved in it. Or if I'm sharing an article on behalf of somebody else, I will tag them and give them the credit where it's due.
So it's important to, when commenting, if you can, to tag said person or company in the comments.
In your caption?
In your caption.
Yes. Yeah. You can also just tag them in the
image.
No.
In the caption, but then also if I'm engaged, if I'm doing outbound engagement,
yes.
And it's very helpful to also include people in certain comments that are applicable.
The little secret about outbound engagement is that your name, your handle for whatever platform, whenever you're conversing in the conversation, it pops up. So when it pops up, you're being seen by all the other people having the conversation.
Okay.
So that's why outbound engagement is really important. That's how you get seen. Oftentimes I'll be looking at other social media posts and people who recommend or are an expert in something, and I'll notice somebody comment with some really cool comment, and I'll go look at their page and I'll probably follow them just based on their comment.
Right.
I'm like, oh, they might know a lot, or
right.
Oh, that person's really cool.
Okay. Okay. So be active. You've got to engage 20 minutes a day.
20 minutes a day.
Okay. Okay. What's new? Are there 2 or 3 things that you can share that have now recently kind of changed the game, so to speak, that every advisor should be aware of?
So on the platform front, I would, if you are an advisor and you enjoy being on video and sharing videos, I would definitely tap into your YouTube network. YouTube is competing with Instagram Reels and TikTok, and they've created YouTube Shorts.
So very easy to create a YouTube channel.
Yep.
If you haven't, you should. You should be putting video content on your YouTube channel, and now you can do YouTube Shorts.
Right.
Okay.
That's that one. That would be for a new platform. And for Instagram, the algorithm has changed significantly. So because there's this original content push, and every time they come out with a new feature, you want to jump on that feature because they're really pushing that feature in the algorithm. And one of the things that they're working on is called recommendations. And in order to be recommended to other people to be seen, you should be creating original content. You should have really fun, captive captions, and you need to be consistently posting. And with that being said, we've noticed significantly since June that when you post a reel on Instagram, so this is a video, because all video now on Instagram is technically a reel.
Okay.
It absolutely is not trending right away. So we used to post and it would be like 5,000 views in 5 minutes. And we'd all get really, really excited because we're like, whoa, look at our reach. Right. Well, now it kind of ticks its way up and takes time. Where I had a video in June not pick up steam until July. And then all of a sudden it was just blowing up. Or 2 weeks ago, I had a video that I did that now
So when you posted it in June, how long did it take before it reached its peak, if you will?
Well, that specific video, I had over 3 million views. And when it was at 500,000, I think I would have been happy. I couldn't believe it was still going.
Right.
It just blew my mind.
So from 500 to 3 million took how long, do you think?
A month and a half.
Okay, so you're in August.
It trended for a long time. Oh, I'm still trending.
Wow.
And we're in September. And then what happened was all my other videos after that were playing 100%. It's like almost like I broke something in there. Like I broke through to another layer.
Interesting.
So reels are important because they're the most reach you can get. TikTok videos, obviously, most reach you can get. I really do think these YouTube shorts are going to be a big reach process. And as far as Facebook goes, Facebook now allows you to transfer your reels from Instagram directly to your Facebook page. So you should be doing that.
Okay.
They work hand in hand.
LinkedIn? Anything new with LinkedIn?
There's not really a whole lot new with LinkedIn. I mean, they updated like their times on the amount of time on their highlights and stories and things like that. But I think they play in a very different space, like we talked about. And I think it's smart. I think what they do is a little bit different.
That's more B2B.
And
for us, industry related. It's great place to interface with my peers.
And certain
vendors.
levels on there you have to pay. You don't get that with like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok.
That's true.
So it is definitely a very different niche, but acts in a completely different way, like you were saying.
Right, okay.
And is still important.
Okay. Any last comments, parting words, maybe to sum up best advice?
I would just say the most important thing is be yourself. I learned that. Be yourself on social media. People love that, even if you feel really silly sometimes. Share your knowledge. Be an expert in your space, engage, and be consistent.
Okay.
Those would be my words of advice.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank
you. Enjoy. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please subscribe, like, share, leave a comment or review. Be sure to check us out on social media at Optimized Advisor Podcast. Till next time.